Live here.
Live!
But we don't have to necessarily know what that means.
What's the someday of blank?
I don't
There's
know
a
that we
reason
want
this story happens now.
Ladies and gentlemen, the movie writes itself.
Ooh.
Well,
I'm still streaming. How do I stop streaming? No! Yo, Benjamin Lustig.
Hello. Welcome to Friday.
Happy Friday. We made it through another week.
Another week.
Thank goodness.
The stock market did not make it through another week.
Oh, did it die? I'm just ignoring it. I just ignore it now.
Now it's down 500 this week.
I just ignore it. I look the other way.
Anyway, we're here. We are on Friday, September 30th. 30th.
Wow, we're in the fourth quarter tomorrow. Where is the year gone?
Where has the year gone? What
Somewhere
a
else.
strange time we're in, 2022.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're back. We're back today on a Friday, and we're gonna keep talking on our story. There was a very good question that a viewer asked that I want to address.
Yes.
Which is a process-based question. And basically what he asked was, do we start our process by saying we're going to do this many days cracking the story, this many days on an outline, this many days on a first draft, and or do you just let it go however long it takes? And the reason I think it's a really good question to talk about is actually because there are different situations that you will be in as a writer.
There are.
Because if you get hired to write something, let's say you sell a pitch, which we have done, and you sell your pitch, and in your contract, you are given a time limit. You are given a allotment of time to complete that first draft. Now, it varies depending on what level of writer you are, whether your lawyer can negotiate more time for you or not, all of those things. Most reps will tell you it's better to deliver late than on time and bad, or late and great versus on time and not so great.
And just okay.
Yeah. So there is that. But because there's a time limit, Jake, I think you and I, once we really discover that was the case, there's a tendency to go, hey, you know what? Actually, we kind of do need to figure out how long it's going to take to do these things.
Yeah. I think when we are, let's say if it's a pitch, and let's say that we've sold it, so we have the idea. We have
the idea's already been done. Yeah.
The story work is already done because you need that in order to sell it as a pitch.
Yeah.
And you might have an area where you go, in this part of the movie,
right, which we've had, yes.
In this part of the section here of the movie, Indy puts the clues together, and he puts them all together. And where does it lead him? It leads him to find the temple in blank. Well, you got to put all that. You actually got to work all that stuff out.
Right.
So that's what I mean by that. And it's fine to do that in a pitch. People go, okay, cool, great. Yes, I get it. There's going to be a treasure hunt puzzly part there. Yeah.
Sure.
But then you got to work that shit out. So I feel that in the past, when we have done that, we have probably outlined, I think, I want to say like the first third of that time. You think that, or maybe like
I would say if we already have the story cracked at the beginning of the process,
sure.
I would say our outline process is usually about 2 weeks. We try and keep it around 2 weeks.
As you said, I think that's probably.
And then the reason for that is we always work. So you're expected to deliver your first studio draft, but God help you if you deliver a rough draft. It better not be a first draft. That is not what the studio is expecting.
No.
So
they're expecting a good piece of material.
Yeah. And we structure in not just one draft, but we actually structure in a first draft for us, a rewrite for us, sending it to our producers that are on the project, getting notes back from them, and doing a free pass for them. Because even though people complain about free producer passes, you shouldn't, because it's just and you're already getting paid, and you're getting paid for that amount of time.
And that's it. And that's my argument for what the WGA. And here's the thing: rightly, They are trying to protect their members from doing free work. I don't consider taking notes from a producer during a first draft stage to be free work. I consider that to be part of my work for the studio. I want to deliver. We wanted to deliver the best script we can to the studio.
Yeah.
I'll say that again for the kids in the back. You want to deliver the best draft possible for the studio.
Yeah.
Now,
and in 3 months.
In 3 months.
Our contracts are usually for a 3-month window.
Completely. Now, really what the WGA are kind of fighting against is saying, you know, a producer trying to get you to do tons and tons of free work. Like, for example, if they came back during that initial stage with seismically massive structural notes, we would say, well, this isn't what we discussed with the studio. And while we hear that, notes of an enormous magnitude like that are enormous rewriting and rebreaking of story, I do think goes over the edge. And I don't think we
need to come. Those, it's rare though when you're in that process to have a producer try and circumvent the studio.
Yes.
Now the studio might give you a seismic note, and then you have to just do it because that's your job.
Totally. But here's the thing. They're not allowed to come back to you on that first draft with a seismic note.
Well, so we skipped a stage.
We did.
And the main stage is you sell your pitch and then you have a creative meeting. And that creative meeting is whereby you, the studio, the producers, and any other attachments you may have, maybe a director, will talk about any notes that they may have had on the pitch, as well as what the plan is for the script. They're going to want to hear a little bit more than what you had when you came in with the pitch, and then to kind of hash out any issues so that you are going off to write a script with some direction from the studio.
Correct.
And so if there's a seismic change, you probably want the producer to back channel with your executive to say, hey, we're thinking we want to do this. What do you think? Just because you don't want to turn in something that they're not expecting. But anyway, to go back to the question, which is time frame. So for us, it would be 3 months, and we would probably take the first 2 weeks to do an outline. We would set aside, I would say, the next month to do our first draft. We would try and do a rewrite in another 2 weeks. Now we're at 2 months. And then we would give it to our producers. And hopefully they will read it
and come back with notes quickly.
That is usually, we hope, although it does not always happen, we hope that will happen in 1 week. So you kind of have like a 1 week break where you can breathe. And then you have 2 to 3 weeks. We'd like to deliver early if possible.
And we also might send that draft to our manager as well. We also might get notes back from him too.
And then you have about 2 weeks or so to do that polish, rewrite, whatever it is that they're coming back with feedback before then you deliver to the studio.
So then
at the end of the day.
So this first delivered draft has been through our initial draft, our rewrite, and then a round of notes from the producer. Essentially. And again, the way that me and Ben work is that even our first drafts aren't even first drafts. Again, let's think about the process.
You guys will see that. We'll get to that.
Completely. So, we have talked for hours. We've come up with this thing. We then outline, and you'll see us, soon, hopefully, actually starts to outline. We create this document together. Say again?
Today, hopefully.
Maybe we'll start that today.
I was thinking today, in fact, I put it in the title. I was thinking today might be a good day just to start that outline.
Yeah, sure. That sounds great. That sounds great. And then the way that we do it is we talk through that outline in the morning. Ben will take scenes 1, 2, and 3, however much we think we can do in the morning. I'll take scenes 4 and 5 if that's what I can do that day. We, having talked them through, write them individually. So Ben will write his sections. I write my sections. Then when we're both finished and ready, we text each other. We send them over to each other. Ben has carte blanche to rewrite any and all words I've put on the page. And likewise, I with him. Again, there shouldn't be major surprises because we've talked it through, we've outlined together, etc. But it might be like, oh, I wanted to tweak that line of dialogue or just clean some things up, whatever it is.
And if
then
there's
we get
anything
back
big,
to it together.
we've communicated with each other before we've done
Yes.
it. I mean, like
Totally.
there are many of times where we will get on the phone with each other during that process and go, "Hey, I'm in this scene. Here's my issue. What do you think?"
Yeah.
And there's no reason to not just take the time to talk that through before
Absolutely right.
writing it.
Absolutely.
Here's just to follow back on this question. If it's not a pitch and it is an original that we are speccing,
Yes.
there's two things. One, I don't think we ever give ourselves a time limit on cracking an idea.
Yes.
It's the most important part of the process. If you don't love your idea, you're going to fumble through the entire rest of what you're doing. And so while we like to come up with ideas quickly, we won't start outlining until we feel we're ready.
Yeah.
And so that sometimes will take 2 days and sometimes it'll take 2 weeks. In this case, I actually feel like we're about ready. So
I do
what have we got?
too. I do
13
too.
hours.
And it's interesting. I've got that,
You know?
there's a moment where you start to feel like angsty.
Yeah.
And I think that's, I
Well,
want
we
to get to
talk
the
through
next
the
part.
characters. We know the arcs and the themes and the major beats, and that's what you need before you start an outline.
Yeah.
So, I think that once you get past that cracking an idea, we like to give ourselves deadlines.
Yes.
It feels good. In fact, we have a calendar that we share, and we will put those goal dates in that calendar.
Absolutely.
We will say, in fact, today, if we start our outline today, we will say, we want this outline done by this date.
Yeah.
And it doesn't always happen.
It doesn't
because
always
things
happen, but
come
I would
up.
say most of the time it does.
Most of the time it does. And I think the reason it's really good to do that is because one day we all will be working for an employer and we will be on deadlines. And I think even with your spec material, it's an opportunity to continue to get better and better and better at meeting those deadlines.
Particularly if you want to write in television, I'll say.
Oh, yeah.
If you are going to be moving towards writing in television, you have to get really good at that. We haven't ever worked, while we've written a lot of pilots for shows, sold a bunch of shows. None of our shows have been made yet. That's all going to change very soon, though. Watch this space. But it will be, you have a week to write this episode.
Yeah, and we actually, even on our pilot, when you work in broadcast, I mean, we sold a pilot to the CW. And they're on such a tight, the schedule is so rigid that if you do not deliver on like the day that they need that draft by, you miss your opportunity to get.
And I think on that particular one, we were doing an adaptation of a book called The House of the Scorpion. I think we did miss the opportunity. I think we missed it.
We might have,
because what
happened is we had a draft in on that was in on time for consideration, but we hadn't had the draft. They hadn't had an opportunity to give us notes.
That's right.
And so because they had to get it to all the other people that all have to say yes, they hadn't had an opportunity. And part of that, it's a very long story. We'll go into it one day on a riff. It's not worth going into right now. But in the creative process, when you're developing, sometimes people change their minds. And then it's up to you as the writer to facilitate what the most important person in the room's ideas are.
That's right.
And you've got to roll with it. And sometimes you've already done 2 weeks of work. You're supposed to be on to the next step. And they go, we're actually thinking we want to change the whole thing.
That was the exact experience on that particular one, wasn't it? But
so anyway, that is the question. I hope that answers it. I think it does. And
so basically, too long didn't read was give yourself as long as in for the outline, and then give yourself some deadlines for the screenplay.
Yes, I think so.
Yep,
I think so.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Noah likes your hair, by the way, Jake.
Oh, thanks. Oh, you know who Noah is?
Who's Noah?
Noah is the guy who cuts my hair.
Oh, hi, Noah. Right on.
Great job, dude. Appreciate it. Appreciate it. I was talking about our podcast.
So I'm just gonna rather than doing a full recap today, let's just say for all those watching that for the last 13 episodes, we're on episode 13.
We're on today's episode 14.
14, right.
Yeah.
Today's episode 4. So for the last 13 episodes, Jake and I went through the process of figuring out what the fuck we wanted to write because we had no idea what we wanted to write. Going back and forth on that idea, figuring, oh, maybe it's this, maybe it's that, maybe it's this, maybe it's that, and landing eventually on an idea, doing some research, watching movies, starting to dig into character work, background, and everything else. And then what happened? Well, through that process, the idea changed again. And we were like, you know what? Actually, maybe this would be better if we added in a third character. And so we went in, we talked through that third character. We've talked through all the different things in terms of budgeting and things that we want to do. And we are now at that place whereby it might be time to start outlining.
Yeah. And, you know, this is the moment where you go, okay, we've done, it's really easy to talk. It's really easy to talk.
Really easy to talk.
Really easy. And then comes the moment when you go, okay, I'm going to have to start putting this down into some kind of document.
And it's going to be bad.
And it's so, and again, I wrote this thing a little while ago, like, you know, it's okay for this to suck, you know, and I just think it's so important that you just let go of this idea of any state of perfection. Things can be bad. They're going to be bad for a while.
This stage right now, the outline stage, is the best place to suck.
Yeah.
If you're going to suck anywhere,
completely.
Right now is the place to suck. Can I say suck even more? I'm going to keep saying suck.
I keep saying suck.
I don't know why.
Suck.
Mega Made.
There are people watching this who've never seen Spaceballs.
Oh,
I wonder if Noah's a young guy, he's in his early 20s. Noah, if you're still watching, have you ever seen Spaceballs? If you haven't, you're missing out.
Everybody should go see Spaceballs.
Everyone should go watch Spaceballs.
Because if you don't know what the Schwartz is, you just don't know what the
Schwartz is. You just don't know.
So here's an interesting thing to ask the question of. Recently, you're welcome, PT. PT said thanks for the great answer for his question. So here's the thing. In recent years, we have done pitches that then we have taken the pitch and we have turned that pitch into an outline and then that outline into a script. And what was really nice about that was that the pitch was so fleshed out and detailed that we actually were able to do the outline really fast.
Yeah, the outline really fast. We wrote the script really fast.
And we wrote the script really fast because the pitch was just so rich. And it was actually our agent's suggestion.
Why did we do that?
Our agent's suggestion. So he said to us, he asked us the question. He said it because we were going to write it, and he said, "Well, maybe we want to pitch it first." And we said, "Okay, but that's a whole lot of extra work." And he said, "Well, let me ask you a question. Before you go away and write it, don't you have to crack the story?" I said, "Yeah, we do." And he's like, "And so what you come up with in a pitch, isn't that the same thing that you have to come up with to write the script?" I said, "Yeah, it is." He said, "So why not write the pitch first? And if we decide that it's not pitchable for whatever reason,
or sellable as a pitch,
you already have everything you already needed to crack."
Completely.
And that was a really interesting kind of view. I don't know that it applies to everything because, yes, you are coming up with the same ideas, but you're putting it in a different format. Yes. And why not, if you have no intention on pitching something, which we are not going to be pitching this script, we are going to be writing this script. We've already determined that. That's the whole title of our podcast. It's not Ben and Jake pitch a movie. That's the sequel. This is Ben and Jake writing a movie. That would be
interesting, wouldn't it, afterwards to construct a pitch live? But again, and it's where people are at in their careers. Now, to be clear, we could pitch this movie We are
Yes.
gratefully and very humbly thankful that we're at a stage of our careers when we can sell pitches. And as Ben was talking about earlier, we have sold multiple pitches. To be clear, a pitch is where you have not written the script yet and you give a verbal presentation around 20 to 25 minutes in length to someone who can buy a movie and pay you to write it. And to be clear, that's great. Getting paid to write, yay, bonus. That's awesome.
Great.
And also, something else happens with that too. Hollywood likes reading scripts. They like reading scripts. And so when you have a script on sale, that script gets sent out to lots of places. And lots of places are reading your work. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, great. These fucking dudes can really write. And your name comes up again.
Yeah.
You know, whereas you might sell a pitch to one place and no one else ever gets to see that script.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, we've sold three things to Sony that were pitches, 4 things to Sony.
No one else
is ever going to see those scripts because
one of them maybe.
One of them maybe. Yeah. So, you know, but anyway, but to be clear, I think at the moment where we are, we want to have another piece of material out in the marketplace that people read and go, oh, cool, this is pretty fucking fun. Yeah, Jake and Ben. And just it serves as, I'll add one more thing.
Yeah.
A really good calling card. Because that script might not sell for a myriad of reasons, but someone has read you again recently.
You know what's really interesting, though, and I know this is a side note or sidebar, and we do this all the time, but I always thought that, right? I always thought it was better to have a script go out to the town, whether it's sold or not. And we were just told recently by someone we respect very, very much that isn't necessarily always the case. And I don't know whether I agree or not, but he made an interesting point. He said, if you take a script out to the town and it doesn't sell, that it looks bad. But somehow it's like, instead of batting 1,000, you're now batting whatever the baseball analogy is, because I don't know baseball. You're batting less. And that
it's interesting. I'm not sure I 100% agree.
That's what I'm saying. I don't know, but it was an interesting perspective.
It was an interesting perspective. And because I know that this person's perspective is very deeply rooted in the industry. And I understand it to a certain degree. And I would understand it like if you were taking a script out every month that didn't sell, or taking a script out that just wasn't really good enough.
Sure.
You know,
I think what's difficult, perhaps, is, and this is what the conversation went to, is that Hollywood is a town about perception, and perception of success attracts success.
Yes.
And so, if you're the guys or girls or girl or guy or whatever, who everything you take out sells, then finding a producer for your next project or finding a star for your next project is going to be a lot easier, because your reps are going to be able to go, dude, they just sold 3 things last year. And maybe that producer read one of those things. And maybe that producer was approached to maybe even produce one of those things, but passed on it. But you sold it. And they can go, hey, you passed on the last one, but don't you want this one? And same thing for buyers, because if it is the same buyer, which, let's be clear, these buyers change on a year-to-year basis. But if it is the same buyer, and some people stay around a long time, our main person over at Sony, Anj Giannetti, has been there forever. And that's who we go to with everything when we go to Sony. And she's wonderful. And if we took multiple scripts to her that she passed on over and over, there starts to become a perception of, maybe they don't have it anymore.
I hear it, you know, and it is a little sidebar, but you know, we are gonna write this script. We're gonna have it be again. It's easier to attach talent to a script. We attach.
I don't even know why I was saying that. Of course, we're writing the script.
Yes, totally. Of course, I know. Yeah, totally. It was easy. You know, we could attach Joey King to our script because she could go, okay, here's what it is
for the princess.
We could, you know, you can attach a director to a script.
Sure.
You know, I think can that happen on a pitch?
Yeah, it does.
Yes, it can. It can happen on a pitch. But I think it's again.
We did.
We did. Yep, absolutely. I think again,
We've actually attached a director on our original 40 Thieves pitch.
we did.
And we attached a star to a recent pitch a year ago.
That's true. We did. Yes, indeed. Yeah.
So it does happen.
Yeah, it does happen. It does happen. I think it's easier when you have a piece of material.
There's no question. Look, a pitch, you got to get someone in front of you.
Yes.
A script, you can send them and they can read it on their own time. And it usually takes a really long time. But at least they can read it on their own time.
Well,
all right. So
let's get on to the process of outlining then.
Yeah, let's do it.
So, we have this scratch document. We will keep that open so we can reference that. As you go and get those things open, I'll just remind people of where we are. You can find us on Facebook, facebook.com/LustigThornton, THORNTON. And that's where we'll be updating news about various projects, etc. You can find Ben on Twitter at Ben_Lustig, and I'm at Jake Thornton. And those are where we're at. And please go and join us, follow us.
Here we go. I'm going to just share one window.
Okay.
Because I've got you all on my screen as well, and I don't need to have me on there twice.
Fine.
I'm going to share our blank document.
Yeah.
Now
it's scary when you stare into the abyss stares back.
Like the scariest moment ever. Oh my God, what are we doing? Are we really going to start this? Holy crap! So
can we make this as big as possible so that everyone can see it? Just want to.
What are we doing?
I think just make it as big as possible. Just make it fill the screen. I think that's probably good. Yeah, okay. And then zoom. And then I think
that look right. I'm looking at the document.
That's fine. Yeah, I think we can lose the navigator on the side if you can.
Sure.
And then I think zoom.
So for those who don't know and those who do, screenplays are written usually in a specific kind of software that is screenwriting software that helps you format all of this wonderful work that you're about to do.
Yes.
And we use a software called Fade In. We really like it. We've been using it for
8 years, I want to say. Yep.
We used to use some Final Draft. People love Final Draft. There are reasons we could talk about why you maybe want to at least know how to use Final Draft. But
I will say Final Draft, to its detriment, is a significantly more expensive piece of software.
And glitchy.
That it feels like every few years adds an update. You suffer from out-of-date software syndrome. Fade In, we like it's super affordable. I think it's like $50 or $60, and when they update it all the time for free, and it's excellent. That said, Final Draft is still used when you get to a point in production. It seems to be the one that all the companies seem to really use. So we haven't, but at some point you may need to get it if you're going to be working on production drafts. But again, that hasn't ever happened to us. We're able to import and export in and out of Final Draft and Fade In. Anyway, point being,
it has all the same features. It's just more people are. It's one of those things where people just get used to using.
Final Draft's very good at marketing itself. I'll say that. That's what they do. But it just feels like that's why it's so expensive. Is because they're spending all this money on marketing. Anyway, there you go. My favorite episode of Script Notes is when they get into a fight with the people from Final Draft. It was excellent.
All right. So one of the first things we do is we're one of these people who every day that we work, we save a new document.
Yes.
And there's multiple reasons we do this. The main one is in case we ever decide we want to go back and find something that we wrote but decided to delete. We have every single day's work saved.
And frequently we will go back to, we're like, oh, let's pull that scene from that old draft.
Yep.
And that happens all the time. Yeah, it does absolutely happen. Let's go back and pull that from the old draft. So new one of these every day. We save it. we save it in a place that we use a Google Drive. We have a shared Google Drive, so it's backed up on that. So that's the way that we do that.
So I'm just going to save this as podcast outline 9/30/22 because we don't have a title yet, which it's funny because usually we actually would have a title by this point. For some reason, the title just has not come to us this round.
Yep.
Not really sure why, but we'll come up with a really good one. Titles are these weird things that, I mean, with Winter's Night, we didn't even have a title until the day
about
before.
a week before. Yeah, I know.
I
want to pause for a second because there's something that we talked about the other day that I don't think we've resolved yet.
Sure.
And it's about, are we going to the Holy Land in this movie or not? What's the end? What's the end goal? What's the end place? We had discussed both versions. And the other day you said, oh, maybe we don't. And I'm just still going, I don't know if we do or not, just going to bring that up because I think that's,
Yeah, I mean, broadly speaking, again, I think what we know is that she's going to get captured, taken to the place whereby they're going to try and, as we discussed, trick her potentially through hallucinations or whatever in order to perform this final act of devilry.
Yes.
And then for her to ascend. There isn't a reason for me to do that in any sort of specific place other than a place that is well guarded, whereby they can defend themselves against anyone who would want to stop it. It doesn't seem like it is a ritual that requires to be done by a certain time or a specific magical location.
Right.
That being said, it could. It just doesn't feel like it requires it right now.
Okay, sure.
And since I understand what that basically is going to be broadly, I think we can make those decisions as we start to get deeper and deeper into the outline. Because as everyone will see in just about a moment, our scene work begins now. Our outlines, when we first started, our outlines were really, really loose. They were basically just bullet points. We would do Act 1, Act 2, Act 3. Here's a couple of things we want to see, and go.
And this was when our process was far more, we were writing in the room together.
Yes.
Now that we have this other process whereby you're going away to write some bits, I'm going away to write others, we need to know what we're writing.
Yeah.
So now I think for us, it is this version. And ultimately, even when we have done work together on screenplays, if we don't know the outline and if we don't know the structure and the shape of the story in pretty good detail, we get stuck. We've done things whereby we've only outlined Act 1 and then gone, oh, we're so eager to write screenplay pages. And then when we get to our second act after that first big movement, we go, I know. And we've done that.
Act 2 is hard. Act 2 is hard.
Yeah.
And I will also say, like, we've had moments where we're like, God, I wish we had outlined this better.
Absolutely right.
Because we end up having to go all the way back and delete entire sequences because when we finally solve the problem that needs to be solved, we realize that none of the other stuff works anymore. Totally. It's happened to us on a bunch of scripts. So anyway, point being, we've now come to the decision that as detailed as we feel we can go within reason.
Yes.
This is not about writing the script. So, but as detailed as we can go, we go with our outline. And sometimes they're 40 pages long.
Yeah. And honestly, if you have a 40-page outline and you're writing a 100-page script, you've really only kind of half joking about this. You've only got to add 60 more pages of stuff. Like, I mean, and like I joke, sometimes I'm just adding the dialogue or action-y beats. You know, I mean, sometimes it has been like that. It's like it's mainly done. Yeah. So
true.
Yeah.
It's true. So basically we're gonna start. And
how does our movie start?
That's the first question.
I always really like the question of what's the opening image for a movie?
Yes.
And, when you look at, I think, really great movies, they have great opening images. Star Wars. I mean, will we ever forget? Will we ever forget the opening image? The first time we saw that as kids. And it literally is exactly what it says it's going to be. You're in space, there's stars, there's spaceships, one's running with and gunfire and awesomeness.
Yeah.
You know, again, there's a myriad great examples of great opening images out there. You know, but again, I think it's if you can find something that's just awesome or a really good opening moment, you're like, cool. You know, and again, is there something symbolically you can do with it? Potentially, maybe, yes. You know, but you know, what is this thing that we start?
And they don't have to. It's interesting. There was a time, I feel like, especially in like the 80s or even the 90s, where movies would start slowly and you might not fully know what you're getting into for a while. You know, I think about the opening of Die Hard. He's on a plane. He's just a guy. You learn that he's a cop because he's got a gun. You go, oh, okay, our hero's a cop. Then he gets into a limo, and you have this whole scene of them driving in a limo, and then he gets to the thing. You have no idea this is going to be an action movie, right? Totally. I mean, you've seen the trailer, but it's like it takes a while. It's like
and it's called Die Hard,
right?
It's not called Christmas at Nakatomi Plaza.
It is,
you know.
Versus, though, I will say, as time has gone on, then you go to like The Matrix, whereby that opening scene is badass, and right from the beginning you go, holy shit, I know exactly what I'm here for, and I am so excited to be here for it. I'm not attached to either way. I feel like, you know, the princess was a choice 100% to start right in the story, but that wasn't even just an opening image. That was like the entire conceptual premise of just going, boom, we're in.
Sure, but again, like the opening image was a fairy tale tower.
Well, yes, the image, yes. I guess I'm thinking more the opening scene.
Sure,
the opening scene of her waking up and fighting those guys essentially gave us exactly what the movie was going to be. It tricked you by having the image of a fairy tale tower and her sleeping in the bed.
Completely.
But then very quickly.
And I had friends who watched that with their young kids, not knowing what it was going to be. And it was like, oh, okay, not the kind of movie I thought it was going to be.
Yeah. Like literally within, you know, what, a minute.
Yeah, it's probably within a minute or a minute and a half.
The violence begins, and you go, "Oh, this is an action movie."
Yeah.
You know, I'm starting to feel like there's probably a middle ground.
I think there is
like having a bit of a slow burn is actually kind of nice.
Yeah,
I don't mind.
I feel like as long as there is, and it's this thing, isn't it? And again, I think about where we're at with the age of streaming, and I'll add the age of YouTube, which we are on right now, whereby people, you know, when you're at home streaming, if you don't get someone's attention pretty quickly within the first
10 minutes,
5 or 10 minutes, it's like
we have a 15-minute rule in our house.
Right,
not into it in 15 minutes. We turn it off.
Absolutely.
Not worth it.
You've got to find something. Now, again, you know, I think of the way that John Wick opens. John Wick opens, you know, at the end.
Yeah.
And car crashes into this side of the warehouse. He gets out. He's all fucked up, looks at his phone, and then we go to the past. You know, it's the 3 months earlier.
Yeah, that first scene, which is a very short scene, but it is a scene.
Absolutely. That
first scene says, this is a movie where Keanu's going to get fucked up.
Totally. And honestly, again, I love Derek. He's our dear friend. Nobody does exactly the same thing. How does nobody start? You are there with Bob Odenkirk in the police thing. He opens up his hand.
Right, with the cigarette.
He opens the cigarette and it's like, who are you? Boom, nobody. 3 months earlier. Or whatever it is, 2 months earlier. You know, so, and that has become a kind of laughable trope. I know that on Script Notes, they used to call it the Stewart special.
Look, if it works, like I love both of those versions, but I loved John Wick and I loved Nobody. And I think that people can say that, oh, something is cliche, but then it works amazingly and the movies do well. And
absolutely. And again, I mean, but ultimately it's the question of how are you grabbing the attention of the audience
Yes.
early on to make them stick with this story?
Sure.
And if it's going to be an action movie, I think today, what are you giving them in the first few minutes in some form, some way, that kind of thing? You know,
Well,
Indiana Jones is honestly a great example. Like the opening of Indiana Jones, like that story, other than the introduction of Belloc, which is important,
it is
nothing to
tied
do with the
movie.
rest of the movie.
Yeah, but his competition with that character is tied to it, and it establishes obviously who he is. It's a character,
of course. But it's not plot related.
Correct.
Yeah.
So my first instinct about an opening scene would be linearly starting in the past and seeing either our demon or our demon hunter doing the thing that ultimately causes them to retreat from their lives because they both have that exact thing that happens to them. So that would be my initial thought process.
Yeah.
I don't know that it needs to be entirely explained. Like if
I don't think it should be.
With the demon, like if we see the moment whereby she does the thing that causes the other demon to try and kill her and she has to run and that's the opening scene there.
Yeah,
that's cool.
I quite like that. I think that's really interesting. I'm down. And I think it should be her.
Yeah. I think you're right. I think it should be her. So
right.
So all right. So the question is now, all right, where? Where and what? So we're gonna be with our demon. We're gonna be with our demon's crew. Are they planting a bomb somewhere? And she disables it, or sees that a bunch of people aren't going to get out in time, and so she cuts. She shuts off a cord, or she cuts a cord, making it so that the bomb doesn't work, or something like that. Like,
perhaps, and like, are we again? I'm trying to think. I'm being budgetarily conscious too, but like, is it like 1920s New York? No, we were talking about 1920s or something else earlier, but that's in my mind.
We're going, because this would be 100 years ago,
potentially.
Right.
This is in the way past. She's been out of being a demon for a long time.
Yes, it's 1920s.
Yeah.
And then actually it's cool because when we cut to her present day and she still looks exactly the same.
Then you go, oh.
You go, oh, okay, cool. Yeah. You know what also is really interesting? This is fun. I don't think we should see that they're demons.
I agree.
I actually think it'd be really interesting to have these 4 people, Zod and his crew, doing a job. She goes against them. They get in a fight. Zod tries to kill her. She escapes. We don't know that they're demons, but there is something off about them. Maybe they're a little stronger than the average person.
Stronger. They can take a bit more punishment.
Maybe they can take more punches. Yeah, maybe they don't. Totally. Maybe they don't get hurt in the same way. Whatever it might be. Yeah. They get into a fight. She runs. She gets out of there. We cut to 100 years later. And it's her.
And then your audience is immediately curious.
Yeah, because we're going,
how does Charlize Theron look the same? I mean, I've got that question about Charlize Theron anyway. So, but she just got a damn good skincare regime. That's all I'm saying.
Right.
She looks after herself.
You know what's interesting? I think, so we don't have to see any sort of explosion happen. What if we're in the 1920s? And we're four people. We're with them in an old car.
Yep.
And we see them pull into, like, do they have parking garages in the 1920s?
I don't know.
I don't know either. We see them pull into somewhere, and they get out. We get a feel for their kind of thing between them, and they open the trunk, and we see that they've got like dynamite. Classic style dynamite, right? And so they all go, and our girl is one of them. They've got their bags. They're all dressed in their 1920s gear, and they go to where they're going to plant the dynamite. Yeah. And they go and they plant the dynamite, and our girl's looking out, and
okay. I'm going to add something. something. They get out of the car. They've just got bags with them. She looks over. There's an elementary school right next door. She doesn't do anything, but she just clocks it. And they go inside. Then they open up the bags. We see the dynamite inside. They're going to plant them in the basement of this building. Something
We
like
definitely should get the feeling that she either is uncomfortable with what they're doing up front, or if she sees the school at that moment, she becomes uncomfortable with it.
Yes.
There might be a moment where she looks over and Zod looks to her because he's been suspicious of her already and goes, "What?"
We
She
okay?
goes,
She's like,
"Did you
"Yeah,
know
I'm
there was
fine."
a school next door?"
Uh-huh.
And he's like, "Yeah. You good?"
Yeah.
"Of course I'm good."
Yeah.
And they
Cool,
keep
great.
going, you know, and it's
Awesome.
like, oh,
Great.
fuck.
Awesome.
So, all right. So here's the thing. I'm going to start. We're going to go exterior with an establishing shot.
Sure, great.
Right? And where
New
do you
York,
think this is? Is it
1920.
Chicago.
Chicago, yeah, wherever. Yeah.
I'm just thinking, like, you know, where do we get all the cool hats and New York,
and
Chicago,
any of
somewhere
those
like
big
that.
cities, you know, I think, you know, and here's the thing, Chicago leans into that classic thing that we were talking about when the very first day, demons as the mob, you know.
Chicago.
And we think they're mobsters.
Yes.
You know, they should feel like mobsters.
Right. And it's going to be day, and we're going to go establishing because this is what we do. Now, to be clear about, this is going to be a longer conversation, I'm sure, at some point. But when we outline, we like to put our slugs in.
We do.
It gives us a sense of every single scene that's going to be in the movie.
Yeah.
And everything down to every location, every time of day, all of it. We try and work it all out now.
Yep.
And so our slugs are the same here. We will copy and paste them into the screenplay.
Totally. When I said earlier, sometimes all we're doing is adding dialogue. It's not entirely true, but it's partially true.
It's and that's why we're actually writing. Honestly, it's why we write our outlines in our screenplay file.
Yes.
So that we can literally go into our screenplay. Our outline is already formatted as a screenplay. We can just go, you do these three, you do those three, you do these three, you do those three. Anyway, so we're going to do it a little establishing, and we're going to probably do super means superimposed, super 1925.
Right.
Chicago 1925.
Yeah. Then exterior Chicago street day.
You want to do exterior, or do you want to do interior exterior car?
Sure. Great. Fine. Fantastic. Yes.
Interior exterior. Oh, hold on. Now, because we're not writing the script, we're not going to write the exact wording because we're going a little bit faster, but we will go and say description.
Yes.
Of 1920s.
Totally.
Chicago.
Yeah.
And I think we probably drop down onto a car, you know.
Yeah, sure. Totally.
Drop down onto a car. Something like that. And then we're interior, exterior, you know.
Yeah, car.
Whatever
whatever it is. Yeah, we'll find a good car for the time.
Sedan.
Sure.
We can, when we go into scripting, we can be more. That's when you start to get really specific, of course.
Totally.
Interior, exterior, sedan, day, and it's basically driving the Chicago streets.
Yep. And we are going to get a name for Charlize next week. We're going to get a name for all these characters.
Yes, we do need names. It's time. If we're in outline,
we're writing an outline. We need character names.
We're driving the Chicago streets,
yes.
And inside the car are four
what look like mobsters, but one of them's a woman.
Yeah,
and that's interesting.
Like mobs. I think two of them are women.
Fine.
Because I think of the three that are coming after them.
Great.
2 men. 2 women.
Yeah.
You know, we focus on Charlize.
Yeah.
Who is our, 30s. And she's obviously our main character.
Yes, totally. Yeah.
In the car, we're gonna get them. They banter. It should be almost.
Do they even need to be? I personally think it's more interesting if they're just silent. They're all quiet.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So they pull into.
You could even have a brief moment where the John Barenthal character, Zod, in the rearview mirror, catches sight of Charlize's eyes and she looks away. We just get something there. We're going.
So wait, do we think she's Yes, I guess she's already been making this change. So she seems like the oddball, the odd man out.
Yeah, the odd one out, but only if you were hyperly putting it under the microscope.
Paying
you
real
know,
attention.
he's not all angsty about it. She's doing this thing, but he's got his eye on her.
Zod. We'll change these names, I promise.
We'll change these names. Protect the innocent.
Zod is driving.
Yeah.
Looks in the rear view and catches a glimpse of her face.
Yeah.
Okay. So then they pull into a parking lot.
Or a parking spot outside of. What are they blowing up? What are they going to be trying to blow up? Just any building?
What would be? No, it can't just be any building. They've got to be doing something that is going to cause a lot of pain and suffering, and they're going to do it clearly.
What was a very big important building in 1920s in Chicago? You know, like what would it be if you were blowing up the World Trade Center?
That'd be like the Chrysler Building, wouldn't it?
Well, Chrysler Building's in New York.
Not the Chrysler Building. There's another one. The skyscraper. So right now I'm just Googling.
Yeah, me too.
Which Tribune, is our best friend.
Tribune Tower. When was that built? That's the one you've seen in multiple things. 1920s buildings in Chicagology.
Yeah. Well, what was the tallest building in Chicago?
Let's find out.
Chicago buildings, 1920s. You had a Masonic temple.
The Tribune Tower, built in between 1923 and 1925.
Okay, Tribune Tower it is. Why not?
Yeah.
So they pull in. So they pull up to the Tribune Tower.
Great. The newly finished Tribune Tower. Now, do I buy that there'd be a school next door to the Tribune Tower?
Probably not, but there could definitely be
a group of school children visiting it inside the lobby.
Sure.
Maybe. Question is, where's Constantine set? Not that it matters, but I'm just at LA. Los Angeles. Yeah.
LA, yeah.
Same with Legion. It's almost like they felt that the City of Angels was somehow thematic to those movies.
You'd think.
Yeah. Put into the newly finished Tribune Tower. Yes, what are you going to say, Ben? Sorry.
I was just thinking that and the Tribune Tower, I'm assuming, was just an office tower.
I believe so. Let's have a little look. Tribune Tower, Wikipedia. Yeah. Tribune Tower is a neo-Gothic skyscraper. The tower was home to the Chicago Tribune.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's basically an office tower.
So it's an office building. So I don't know that like a bunch of school children in the lobby makes...
But it was a new building at the time.
Okay.
You know, it was newly finished and was the tallest building in Chicago at the time. So I believe that a group of... I mean, like... My kids are going to go and look at the recycling plant as part of a school trip soon. You know, it's like what do kids on school trips do? You know?
Sure. Okay. Yeah. See how it.
And again, here's the thing: if we wanted to put an elementary school across the street, no one's going to be going, well, hang on a minute. Was there actually an elementary school? Let me Google that. You know, it's like, does it feel like it could be? I don't know. It should feel right. You know, it should feel like.
I have an idea, but I don't know if it works in the 1920s. But if there's road work and construction and like a school bus ends up getting like stopped outside the front of the building or something like that, like it's totally unplanned.
Yeah, sure. Could do.
I don't know.
Yeah, could do. Yeah.
I don't know if that works in the 1920s or not, but
Right.
there would be. I think we would basically, though, we're cutting to. They pull up. Now we're going to cut to them
Yes, interior.
with like in gear, essentially, like walking into the tower
Yeah,
with
I
like
think so. Yeah.
bags that we'll find out are filled with dynamite, right?
Yes, totally.
So
And I think it's classic goon stuff. You know, they go to the guy at the front. They've got a bit of paper. We're here to fix the boiler, whatever it is. You know, they're going to go down to the basement.
So you think they're like dressed up in disguise, or are they dressed like mobsters? Like are they in suits and like there's a conflict?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. I'm not sure.
I mean, are they pulling up in a cleaning truck? It's fine if they are.
Or a plumbing. Are they dressed as plumbers?
But I also don't think that they need to like worry too much about being spotted. They don't need to hide their appearance.
Yeah, sure, that's fine.
Because they're just going to go back to hell.
Well, do you do a thing? And again, just asking questions whereby going, oh, hang on, what's going on with that? Does the guy at the front desk down at the bottom in the foyer goes, can I help you? And he's just like, we're here to fit. He does like a Jedi mind trick, you know, is the thing. And you go, oh, hey guys, you can't go down there. And he goes, it's fine. And he goes, yeah, it's fine. And we're going, oh, what have you? But then I'm giving them a power. And then do I need to be loyal with that power throughout the thing? But later on, they're going to be doing some kind of hallucinatory magic with Sam. So is there something?
Okay. Yes, I think that. So that's cool. And yes, it's a power, and yes, we will need to continue to use it throughout the movie. And so it may become too much of an issue in terms of complications, in terms of, you know, if demons can hypnotize people. But what demons are notoriously known for is influencing people.
Totally.
So is there a moment whereby the other girl in the group walks up to the guy and whispers in his ear? We have no idea what she says. Totally. No idea what it is.
Yeah.
And he just goes, all right, go on.
I'm reading this book at the moment by Clive Barker called Weave World. And there is this human character in it. And I'm about a third of the way through it. I'm really enjoying it. But he's been kind of gifted this ability to kind of give anybody kind of like their wildest dreams. And he has this jacket that when he opens, when you see the lining of this jacket, you kind of become hypnotized by it. And he says, do you see anything you like? And the very first thing that happens is the main character's father has recently become a widow. And what he sees in the guy's pocket is a letter from his dead wife. And he takes out the letter and he's reading this letter, oblivious to everything else that's going on. At another point, someone takes out their favorite childhood toy and they become completely enraptured by this thing.
Where are you going?
Where I'm going with it is, what is the thing? Like, I liked where you were going with the idea of these powers of manipulation or something. What could the demons say to this person that makes them kind of forget where they are or what's going on around them? I just like the idea of these demons having this kind of manipulative power. But maybe it is the version that you just pitched out to, which is, I just whisper something in your ear.
It's the audience, devil on your shoulder.
Whispered.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. That's the power is, I mean, she might be whispering fucking demon speak.
Sure. You know? Yeah, totally.
The power is I can nudge you. That's one of the things demons can do.
Yeah, I can nudge you.
Yeah. I can just whisper in your ear and make you do something. I can't change your whole life, but I could make you jump off that building.
Something.
I can make you let us through this thing.
Yeah. And maybe we don't know what it is. Maybe that is interesting. And I always like it. And what did I just watch? I just watched Thor again with my kids. The most recent one. And at the end, you know, the whole thing has been, she's been trying to figure out what her catchphrase is going to be. And she goes, I think I finally got it. And she whispers it to Thor, and you, the audience, never hear it, and you never know it. And you're going, oh, what did she say? What did she say in that moment? And you don't know, and you actually bring yourself to that. So maybe it is okay that we don't hear. Zod and his crew approach the front doors. One of the women whispers into the security guard's ear.
They carry bags.
Yeah.
And, you know.
Yeah. And he could have any reaction to this we want. You know, he could start to cry. He could, you know.
Yeah, I mean, by a security guard.
Yeah, can I help you? Can I help you, kind lovely people?
Security guard and demon girl.
Yeah. Whispers something in his ear.
Into his ear.
I think maybe he just starts to break down and cry, and they just leave him to it.
Maybe.
But he has some kind of reaction to it and is consumed in that, I think. You know, he's not even aware they're going down into the basement. He's just oblivious to it for whatever reason.
It's interesting. It's interesting.
And I'm instantly intrigued by that.
And
I'm instantly going, what? Who are these people? You know?
Yeah, they push past him with ease.
Yeah.
Then we're going to go interior Tribune Tower lobby. Now so if we're going to see the kids, I guess this is where it would be. And they could be giving a tour guide is going, this is the tallest building ever built in Chicago.
Totally.
You know,
So you think that first one isn't in the lobby?
No.
Oh, okay, it's outside.
Correct.
Okay.
We were just in the car. I'm giving us a tracking beat for them to be in the car. Then they parked. Now they're walking in. They go in, and now they're inside.
Okay. Forgive me, my kids are just coming home from school. Forgive any noise, any background noise.
Well, we are at an hour. I know
we are at an hour, yes.
2:45. Let's just wrap this scene up, though.
Yes, the gang passed by a group of school children having a tour of it, and we'll see that there is a moment of trouble passes across her face. A moment of concern passes across her face.
Yeah, Charlize.
But she buries it down again before Zod can see.
But tries to bury it. Zod catches it, asks her if she's okay. She brushes it off.
Yeah.
And they continue to the elevators.
Sure. Or the stairs down to the basement.
Yeah, or this. Yeah, they continue to this to a stairwell.
Right.
And slip inside.
I love this opening. It's so funny. Had you told me last week this is how the movie opens, I'd have been like, what are you talking about? It's great. I think it's brilliant. I think it's so great. I just love making these discoveries. All right, let's keep going.
Yeah, so anyway, guys, obviously we talked for quite a bit, but we did start our outline. A nice little opening going.
We've done writing today.
Yeah. One of the things we also like to do, and I am going to just do this real quick, is we like to make a note of what else we want to do next time. So we know that they're going to try. They have dynamite.
So we can't actually see that, the note that you're making. It's only
so let me see if I can just...
but it's okay. Just
all right.
Just say what you're saying. Yeah.
We know that they have dynamite. I'm just taking a quick note. You see that yellow little thing that's on there? That's my note. They have dynamite. Charlize
says she can't do it. They get
sabotage. The explosion, and Zod knows it was her. They get into a fight.
Charlize can take more punishment than a regular person could.
Cut to 100 years later, and that's where we're headed. Yeah.
Great.
All right. Cool, everybody.
Good stuff.
This was fun. This was a good thing. Jake, we are going to come back with ideas for
Names.
Charlize's name.
Yes, and maybe some
One
title
day.
names too. So
and some title name ideas too. Yeah, that would be good. That'd be good.
Good stuff. All right, dude.
Thanks everybody for joining us today. Have
See
a
you
great
next time.
weekend.
Bye-bye.